Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, man.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
All those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library.
1 run, 2 runs.
Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Guilbeau.
Great players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine and TigerRag.com, Todd Horne. Glenn Guilbeau is still on his European vacation. Can't wait till the movie comes out on that or the reality TV show, but I think he's hanging out with Bono and The Edge at in Ireland. I believe that is what he said.
He's in Ireland, and you're not interested in what he's doing. Don't lie.
Would be like watching paint drying, right? If we watched his European vacation.
He's got, he's posting all these pictures of bars and the Titanic taking off from this place, whenever
Right.
that 200 years ago, ever how long ago that was. And I get sleepy every time
Jackson Blackman, our producer, once again. And we also have the newest addition to TigerRag.com, recent LSU graduate, Andre Champagne. Andre, welcome to the team.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Todd, for having me on not only today, but I'm excited to join the team. It's already been a very eventful week,
and you haven't even really worked with Guilbeau yet.
Right, exactly. So it's only going to get better, right?
Yeah. So just wait till that experience comes. This might be Andre's last time on the show.
No. He's a trooper, man. Yeah. We lucked up. We got a good one.
We got a good one, and we can't wait till Glenn gets back and. Maybe he'll know who DJ Pickens is on the LSU football team. We'll get into that joke a little bit later on. But it has been now a week since preseason camp, since the last time we were on the airways. By the way, before I go any further, I want to welcome KRLQ back to Tiger Rag Radio in Ruston. They usually pick us up for football season, so they have returned, and actually they're hearing us on Wednesday night. From what I understand, maybe it'll get us, as the season goes along, get us back live, but we're at least on Wednesday nights on KRLQ, but it's glad to be back in Lincoln Parish and talking LSU football with you. And so we've been around, the team has been around, football team's been around for a week, and so I guess we'll start off with this, Todd. What are some of your early impressions of preseason camp?
Well, the biggest impression that I've had, not to sound rah-rah cheerleader, but, Brian Kelly talked about how this was his best roster ever at LSU, and he's not exaggerated. They are definitely loaded, those 18 transfers and the 23 freshmen. There's a lot of talent, more depth than I've seen at LSU in years. Extremely talented team. Both offensively and defensively. The speed at receiver, the depth at receiver stands out probably more than anything else. Of course, Garrett Nussmeier has been hot most of camp. He's made some mistakes, but for the most part, he's as advertised, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, if not the best. I am... Me personally, I guess because it's the old defensive back in me coming out, but I've just been super impressed with the defensive backfield, especially A.J. Halsey. I just think that dude he's the real deal. And I've been impressed with Cooley, too, Tamarcus Cooley, another transfer. I think those two are locking down the safeties right now. I could be wrong. It's still early. They just donned the pads for the first time today. I didn't make it out there today, but I understand that the defense pretty much shut down the offense most of practice.
Yeah, what are we seeing as far as the competition between the offense and defense? Is it you talked about the depth. There is no doubt you could just look at it on paper, and if you start looking at the bios of some of these guys and the experience, the amount of depth they have. Like I was thinking about it the other day. Like if they, remember last year when Jacoby and Guillory got hurt.
That was like the death knell.
Yeah, they're moving guys from defensive end to defensive tackle. They're trying everything. They're just throwing stuff up on the wall and hoping it sticks. This year, if they suffered an injury on the defensive line, which they will, they're gonna suffer a couple. I don't know if I don't want to say they don't miss a beat. Like if you lose Dominic McKinley, I don't think you want to do that. But if you do lose a guy or two, and especially in the defensive secondary, it is really the next man up philosophy that they can work with on the defensive side of the football. And you could say that certainly at the wide receiver position too.
Yeah, all over the place. I mean, they really do have, and Kelly has talked about that at all positions for the most part, where not only do they have high quality depth, but there's competition right now, and everybody gets hung up on, who's first team, who's second team. Yeah. There's a lot of rotation going on. They're going to be platooning across the board this year. You're not necessarily. I guess you will have a starting lineup because you have to announce a starting lineup. You'll have your starting offensive line. You'll have your starting defensive line, your starting defensive backs, et cetera. But these guys are going to be coming in and out on a regular basis all season long. And as you talked about the injuries that are bound to come, when those injuries do come, like with Guillory last year, it was, like I said, a death knell almost. You don't have that problem anywhere on the field this year.
Yeah. What about the competition between offense and defense?
Except maybe quarterback. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there would be a big drop-off if that happened.
Right.
But that would happen for, I think, any team. Anybody loses their starting quarterback for the most part.
Well, especially an established starting quarterback that the only quarterback in the country who passed for 4,000 yards last year and is in his second year, starting in his fifth year. He's going to have a great season just because he's going to advance. And you see that. You see his maturity already out on the field. We can talk more about that as the show goes on. But it's real. This team is real. This is one of the most talented teams roster-wise in the country. Now, does that translate to the college football playoffs or a national championship? They got a very, very difficult schedule starting out with Clemson, and they're going to have to come together, and they're going to have to execute, and they're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your initial observations, Andre, as far as viewing what you've been able to view?
Kind of like what Todd said, is the defense this year is far different than what you saw last year. They're chaotic. They're going to do a lot of different things this year, especially we talked about the depth with the talent, but another thing is LSU is versatile, something that they haven't been in the past. They have guys that can go and stop the run, and then they also have guys that can go and get to the quarterback. So they can throw in numerous guys that are going to be able, on the defensive line at least, to go and cause havoc from the line of scrimmage. And that's what LSU has been missing since the Ed O days, really from the defensive line position. So I think the defensive line has stood out. To me, I would say Harold Perkins is very much back. That was the big one for me. He had another impressive practice today. He looks to be in the best shape of his career so far, even better than that freshman year. He from what I understood, he really attacked the recovery process, but not only in the weight room, in the film room. And so he kind of understands the linebacker position way more than he did last year.
When I think about that defense and what I've seen on the practice field the last 6 days that I've been there, I see, like Andre said, so many tools, but I see so many tools that fit what a Blake Baker defense wants to be like. He talks about wreaking havoc. He talks about causing chaos. You look at a fifth-year senior transfer in Bernard Gooden. This guy is a motor like you haven't seen, and they with Jack Pyburn from Florida, with the edge rushers that they have, with Relaford coming back, with McKinley on anchoring that line, with Guillory back. He is basically an immovable force. They just have so much that they can throw at you, and that's what's making in practice extra challenges for this offensive line, which is inexperienced but very, very talented. It's a very talented offensive line with depth. They're not just 5 offensive linemen. One thing we have learned, and I don't want to jump the gun here, but, Braylon Moore, I wish Glenn was here. I told him Braylon Moore was going to be the center, and Braylon Moore is the center. DJ Chester has moved to left guard where he's in a battle. We pretty much know Braylon Moore is going to be the center. We know that Tyree Adams is going to be the left tackle. We know that Weston Davis is going to be the right tackle. We don't know who the guards are going to be for sure. Right. Both of those are up. But if they had to start today, it would be DJ Chester at left guard. It would be Josh Thompson, the transfer from Northwestern, at right guard. But those guys are locked in battles right now.
Paul Mubanga and Cohen Eccles are the other 2 guys that are vying for playing time.
And also, they've moved Carius Kern into a guard position at times. He's a freshman from Arkansas, the number 1 recruit out of Arkansas, and he got time today at second team left guard, and I think that's the first time in real practice action that he saw that competition. So lots of depth. And Kelly says that competition is creating an intensity that you haven't seen. And that's the other thing that stands out for me about watching the practice. There's so much energy out there. Just unlike, I know it sounds like hype, but it's not. These guys have a lot of talent. There's a lot of competition going on. They're extremely focused, and they have a lot of energy. And 6 days in, can they keep it as it moves forward?
And they seem together as one. Like, this isn't a team that necessarily care. Like, obviously they care about the accolades for themselves to an extent, but they care about winning the national championship. And years past, that's been the struggle for Brian Kelly in the locker room, is to get everyone on the same page. This year, it looks like they're doing it already, and that's a great sign.
Is that because, and we don't know what type of discussions occurred, especially when Brian Kelly brought in these 18 players as part of this transfer class, but maybe in a lot of the cases for these guys, he was giving them all the same message.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, and I think that's true. And I think you have to credit General Manager Austin Thomas with the composition of this roster. The players that they went after weren't just players that could play. They were players that had experience. Halsey, we talked about A.J. Halsey coming in at a free safety type of position that we know LSU needed. You got 33 games of Division I starting experience at a high level, 36 games overall, but 33 as a starter. And Kelly addressed it today in a press conference. He says, I didn't go after players where I had to teach them how to play football. I was going after players that were ready to graduate and go to the next level. And that's what this team is composed of. They have the desire and the appetite to play for championship football.
Coming up later on in the show, we'll hear from Glen West of 247 Sports. Scott Rabalais of The Advocate will also join us, and we'll hear from the great Bruce Feldman of The Athletic. So stay tuned. More of Tiger Rag Radio coming up with Jackson Blackman, Andre Champagne, Todd Horne, and myself, Jeff Palermo. Glenn Guilbeau vacationing in Europe, so no Glenn tonight. I don't know if that's going to attract more listeners. Are we going to drop some? I don't know. We'll see. But we're glad you're with us. More of Tiger Rag Radio. We got through the first segment without any power outages this week, so that's a plus. So more preseason camp talk when we come back on Tiger Rag Radio.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun. Techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish. Nimble.
Trax.
Innovative. Electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
Tiger Rag Radio. The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
He's been great. I mean, he's done everything we've asked him to do. It's a competitive situation. He knows it, but he's learning every day. And he came here because he wanted to obviously develop at a higher level. Not that they didn't develop him at Florida State, but he was looking for more of that. That's why he transferred. And we want to meet and exceed that.
That is LSU football coach Brian Kelly talking about Patrick Payton, one of the 18 transfers, and a guy that is finding his way as far as playing time goes on defense, but one of those guys that we could see, especially in pass rush situations, really be a big part of this team.
Jeff and Andre, he had 11 sacks, 70 quarterback pressures, 35 run stops, and 18 TFLs since the 2023 season. And he came here to improve his game, better prepare for the NFL, work under Kevin Peoples, and he's literally struggling to get playing time right now just because of the talent across that defensive line and the edge rushers in that room.
And Brian Kelly is definitely not one to make promises when they were going out and getting guys in the transfer portal. So for him to go and kind of accept that challenge says a lot about not only his character, but the other defensive ends and the defensive tackles that chose to come to LSU. He's a guy, like you said, he's a guy that has a lot of experience, and we really haven't heard his name much this camp, but he's definitely he has the tools to be an elite edge rusher, especially getting to the quarterback. That's really his strong suit. He's got a lot of burst coming off of the line, and so he's hard to defend when it comes to speedy type of edge rushers. And
as you mentioned in the first segment, Todd, they're rotating guys through.
Right.
So when you're trying to, certain places you can pinpoint a depth chart, like offensive line. We talked about that in the last segment. But as far as defensively, it's a little difficult. We know Witt and Wes Weeks are going to be your starting linebackers, and Mansour Delane's going to be a cornerback along with Ashton Stamps, and we'll see if it's Tamarcus Cooley and A.J. Halsey. But
I already told you it's going to be those two.
It's going to be those two over Jordan Gilbert and Javian Toviano, and Deshaun Spears is also part of that mix as well. But on the defensive line, you would figure Pyburn's going to be a big part of playing on that defensive end, along with Gabriel Relford. And then it's Patrick Payton and Jamari Butler. Those two guys are really battling for playing time at that edge position.
You got it. They are. And, they broke out a pass rushing package. I can't remember what day it was, maybe Saturday morning.
They didn't call it NASCAR, did they?
Yeah, no,
what defensive coordinator had the NASCAR pack? The NASCAR pack. Everybody talked about it.
No, they did. If they did call it that, they didn't call it that publicly. But they had Pyburn down at a 3, 3 technique, which is basically a defensive tackle. They had Relaford, they had Patrick Payton, and they had somebody else.
Was it Bro?
Yeah, it was Ahmad Bro. So that's a pass rushing.
That's your cheetah package.
Yeah,
your fastest guy out there.
Whatever you want to call it. That's, to me, what this defense is about. It's about putting the players in a position. I think about. I'm trying to think of an example, but you're playing matchups. It's almost like Jay Johnson,
Yes.
You got a righty going against a lefty who bats a certain way or does a certain thing. That's what they're doing. And Brian Kelly alluded to that this week when he said, we finally got Blake Baker the toys he needs. I don't know if he used those exact words, but that was the sentiment. He's got what he needs to do the things that he wants to do. He didn't have that last year. He didn't have that at all last year.
Where does P.J. Woodland fit into all this? I'm hearing a lot about him. I think Brian Kelly spoke about him today, that he put on 10 to 15 pounds and just much more competitive in practice. Where does he fit defensively?
I think he fits in the rotation. He's looked very good. He's made a couple of picks that I've seen. He's had numerous pass breakups. He's quick. He's knowledgeable.
Yeah, he's going to see the rotation for sure, especially significant snaps. That's a guy that really had to improve after last year. Like you guys said, he was a little light as far as the weight goes, and he added those 12 to 15 pounds. But what Brian Kelly said this afternoon was he's a guy that can play both the inside and the outside position, which is very valuable in the SEC, really, because you look at what Mansour Delane did with Virginia Tech. He did that same kind of role. He played a hybrid safety, but he also played a little bit of nickel. So it's hard to find guys that are able to do that. You tried to make Sage Ryan do that in years past. Saw how that worked. And it kind of shows how hard it is to do. But P.J. Woodland has had, in my opinion, the best out of any of the defensive backs camp so far.
Speed kills. This team's fast. Mm-hmm. They're not only fast, they're quick. And that defense is going to be formidable this year. They really are.
Yeah, they're getting battle tested every day.
All right, let's take another break. When we come back, Glen West of 247 Sports will join us. We'll have Scott Rabalais later on in the show. We'll also have Bruce Feldman. We'll hear a little bit more from LSU football coach Brian Kelly. So a lot to get to here over the next couple of hours. We'll dive into some other stuff as well. The women's basketball schedule is out for the 2025-26 season. Interesting day that the LSU South Carolina game will be on. Of course,
Valentine's Day.
Well, not just Valentine's Day, but most games are on Sunday, Thursday, or Monday, and it's on neither of those days. So we'll tell you about that later on in the show. So stay tuned for more of Tiger Rag Radio after this.
July is jumping at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Discover new ways of researching your family history. Learn how to market your small business. Enjoy programs and performances for all ages. We've got it all. For more details, go to ebrpl.com. That's ebrpl.com.
And we're back with Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Yeah, that's right. We're inside the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Andre Champagne, who is the newest addition to Tiger Rag, and he's also a sports reporter for the Louisiana Radio Network. And let's get to our first guest here on the Max Home Hotline. That is Glen West of 247 Sports. Glenn, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. How you doing?
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Well, I'll ask you what I asked Todd and Andre basically to start off the show. Your early impressions of what you've seen from LSU during fall camp.
Yeah, I think the intensity and the drive, have been there on both sides of the ball. There's definitely been a lot of communication, I think, between both sides, and I think they're approaching this with the right energy. And I don't want to bury the lead here. I do think that there has been a pretty distinct advantage for LSU from a defensive line standpoint. I think those guys, whether it's on the interior with guys like Bernard Gooden and Dominic McKinley, or on the edge with Gabe Relaford, Jack Piber, and Patrick Payton, that kind of crew there, they've created some havoc, and they've created some real tough situations for this offense in the first 5 or 6 days of camp. And I don't think that's to be completely unexpected. I think, when you're dealing with having to replace 4 starters on the offensive line, you need some time together to really get that thing gelling and working. And this was the first day of pads, and we got a chance to see just how that group would click. And I think you leave that practice today going that there needs to be some significant work still to be done there on the offensive line to be the kind of group that can go into Clemson and win that game. So I think defensive line is something that has stood out to me. Offensive line certainly as well. And then just the depth at wide receiver. I think LSU has no shortage of skills players that they're going to be able to lean on here this season. And it's just about how they can get the ball to those guys and which ones are best for what situation.
Hey, Glenn, it's Todd. Hey, there's no question, going back to the offensive line, that, obviously you've lost 4 starters. DJ Chester's moved from center to guard right now, and he's in a battle for a starting guard position. But like I told talked with Jeff and Andre about earlier. If they had to start today, I think he would be the starting left guard. But the good news is that they are extremely talented individuals. The bad news is they don't work well together yet. The good news is they have 20-something days still to get that right. The good news is they're going against a good defensive line with a lot of rotation and a lot of skill to challenge them and teach them the ropes, so to speak, to become a unit. The bad news is Clemson's defensive line may be better than LSU's. So,
yeah.
What do you think they're going to be able to step up and respond by that time?
It's a great question. I wish I had a crystal ball that I can go in the future and tell you, but I do think that this group has talent. I've watched a lot of the offensive line, defensive line drill work over the last couple of days of practice, just because that's been kind of the area that I think most people, or most of us, have been most curious about. And you're right. One-on-one, I think this offensive line group, as players, as individuals, whether it's Tyree Adams, Weston Davis, Braylon Moore, Josh Thompson, and any of these guys, really, when they get to go one-on-one against these LSU defensive linemen, they're able to hold up. And they don't win every rep, but they do win some reps, and they do hold their own in terms of just blocking one-on-one. But when they shift over to 11-on-11, that's where you're really seeing the discrepancy here. And I think that's, to your point there, maybe they're really good individual talents, but they're still learning to work together as a unit. And that's something that's going to take time. And look, I think if I could go into the future in 3 or 4 weeks and see what this thing looked like, you would hope that these guys are starting to push back a little bit more and opening up some holes, or really moving well together. That was something that Brian Kelly talked about a lot today, is just getting their movement right. They're still installing a lot of run schemes and certainly different passing schemes as well. But the whole gist of offensive line play is moving together as one and making sure that you're in the right spot, that you're not getting beat off your blocks, that you're not getting pushed back consistently. And so I think the technical and the mental aspect is something that Brian Kelly really focused on today, and not really the physical. And I think that tells you that LSU has the talent, they have the guys, and they're still just working on the kinks right now to make this unit one, and one that can go in and compete at a place like Clemson that has obviously a very heralded defensive line returning to their group as well.
When you talk about LSU in a running game, everybody points to the fact that minus Jaden Daniels last year with Garrett Nussmeier, he didn't run at all. Had minus 37 yards rushing for the season, as opposed to Daniels, who had over 1,000 yards. The offensive line last year, who can forget Will Campbell in fall camp last year talking about how they were going to dominate the running game. They go out against USC and they I don't remember the amount of yards they put up, but it was nothing. And they struggled for a running game all year. They had no imagination. They ran zone reads and slants, and your quarterback had no threat to run. But they brought in Alex Atkins from Oregon this year, and he's now their run game coordinator. Are you seeing any difference yet, or is it still too early to see structural differences in the way they're blocking offensively for the run game?
Yeah, I think it's probably still a little too early to see. Look, I will say I actually spent a good 10, 15 minutes watching Alex Atkins with the tight ends today in individual drills, and pretty much the entire time they were working on different blocking schemes and different ways to get their hands right to block to help this offensive line out. And I do think he's going to have a voice with how this run game evolves, and that's something that Brian Kelly has talked about this offseason. It's something that Joe Sloan talked about back in the spring as well. So, look, I think LSU is going to have an opportunity here to get some really smart minds in the room with Joe Sloan, with Brad Davis, with Alex Atkins, and just figure out ways in which this run game can be more creative. I think Caden Durham is a guy that you really look at as the pillar of this group, but how they're working in Caleb Jackson and Harlan Berry is going to be what maybe kind of sets this group over the edge. I think Harlan Berry today probably had more second-team reps than any other running back in the backfield. I think they're trying to test a lot of different things out with him in terms of how they can maybe use him not only as a runner but also in the passing game as well. So there's different things that they're trying to work through right now. Honestly, outside of one Caden Durham run that went for 45 yards and a touchdown today, there just wasn't a whole lot to see. I mean, it was just a lot of stuffed runs, a lot of no gainers, a lot of 2-yard gains or a couple yard losses here and there. Like there was not a whole ton of consistency with how LSU was able to operate in the run game. And I would say probably it was an 80-20 kind of split with how they split up the run versus the pass today in the 2 11-on-11 periods that we got a chance to see. So clearly they're devoting a lot of time to the run game and trying to figure out ways in which they can open it up. But still, I think to be determined in terms of how effective that will be 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, hey, Glenn, this is Andre. I just wanted to ask, from what Todd and I have seen in the building and from camp, really, just a vibe around practice feels a bit different than the last 3 years. I just wanted to ask you what you kind of think about that, and it seems like the players are a lot closer this year. What do you sense in that aspect, and how do you think that will help just with camp kind of going forward and getting ready for Clemson?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good energy around this group. I think you really have to be around them a lot to get a good sense for how they operate off the field. I mean, we've heard stories just them busting back and forth from the hotel that they're staying at here for a few weeks. This is maybe a good time where they have some good camaraderie, some good chemistry opportunities here over the next couple weeks while they're all kind of together here in the same closed space. So I think all that helps certainly, but at the end of the day, these guys all want to go out there and they want to win, they want to play, and be competitive out there when they get their opportunities. And so I think you're also seeing a good blend here of good competition and healthy, dialogue back and forth between the offense and the defense. We've seen a lot of that going back and forth here, and I think that's also really important too. So I think to your point, Andre, yes, they do seem like they're a pretty close group, but I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is how that translates to on-field chemistry, and that's still probably a little too early to say one way or the other yet.
Glenn, one of the trademarks that we've all talked about this team, even tonight, is depth pretty much across the board. The one place that depth lacks, and there's a pretty big drop-off, is if something were to happen with Garrett Nussmeier. What have you seen from Michael Van Buren and Colin in practice?
Yeah, I think that's a competition that's really only just heating up. Like I haven't seen a whole ton from either of them with the second team. You mentioned some of the issues with the first team blocking and just not being able to get very much consistency offensively through 5 or 6 days. I think you're seeing a lot of the same things with the second team as well, and how that second defense has been able to control a lot of things for LSU so far in fall camp. So I like just in terms of watching these two quarterbacks, I love the way the ball comes off of Colin Hurley's hands. I think he's got great mechanics. I think he's very capable of playing at this level if he's asked to in a pinch, but there's still some developmental things I think they're working through with him in terms of him, really only being in his second year and really should be a true freshman this year if you think about it, with him being an early enrollee. And look, Michael Van Buren has some real athleticism there. I think if you had to ask me right now who would probably be the second stringer, I would probably lean him at this point. But we haven't seen a ton of big plays through the air from either of these guys yet at in 11-on-11 and in different team contact periods and things of that nature. So I think it's still very wide open as to who's going to be that second stringer, and I'm not counting either guy out right now at this point.
Glenn, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. Always count on you for giving us some great insight, and you continue to do that tonight. Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk again as the football season rolls along.
All right, appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Glen West of 247 Sports. Coming up later on, it'll be Scott Rabalais from The Advocate. We'll hear from Bruce Feldman from The Athletic. More coming up of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Tiger Rag Radio.
details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
Continue on with the first hour from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Andre Champagne, who is the newest member of Tiger Rag Magazine and TigerRag.com. And we've been sitting here talking for the last 45 minutes or so about how good this LSU football team is, Todd. So why are they ranked 9th in the preseason coaches poll and 4th in the SEC? Is it obviously Georgia, Alabama, or excuse me, Alabama's ranked ahead of LSU in both the SEC preseason media poll and the coaches poll. And then, of course, Texas is up there as well. So what is it? What's holding this LSU team back, at least in the preseason projections? And I understand it's just preseason projections and LSU can prove everyone wrong, but what's holding them back from being considered a top 5 team in the country?
Because what you're talking about, you said it yourself. They're great on paper. The experience is great on paper, but they haven't played together. And we don't know if they're, even though they get along great, there's great energy at practice. They have tons of talent, tons of depth, tons of speed. They have a great quarterback. We don't know how they're going to perform and play whenever the pressure comes on. And they've got pressure against Clemson, at Clemson, and everybody's talked about how much emphasis Brian Kelly is putting on this. I mean, look, they wiped out the schedule in the team room at the football ops facility. So the only game that's showing on the schedule now is the Clemson game. Nothing else is up there. So they're entirely focused on that. They go to Clemson and they get beat. I'm worried about that. We talk about that all the time.
Right. The AP preseason poll comes out next week, but I think there are some concerns, and we heard Glenn talk about it in the last segment. This offensive line, is it going to be better than last year's offensive line when you had 4 of those guys selected in the NFL draft?
Okay, so
was DJ Chester the problem last year?
Okay, I think DJ Chester was a problem, and I'm probably the only person that's been able to say that or been willing to say that. He was a problem. Okay, he was the center. They brought in,
and it all starts there.
Yeah, it does start there. That's the quarterback of your offensive line. Braylon Moore has got 40 starting games of experience now coming in, and they didn't waste any time at all putting him as the starter. DJ Chester's fighting for his position right now. He's talented, he's good, he's got experience, and he will be the number 2 center if something happens to Braylon Moore. But Braylon Moore is your guy, and he's your guy for a reason. They need to come together as a unit. Will they? That's a big question mark. And to me, that's the biggest question mark on the team.
And this is what makes it difficult when you play like a team like Clemson. You're bringing in a whole new offensive line in one of the more difficult environments in all of college football. But, you're almost asking for trouble.
It's definitely, you're going straight into the oven.
Yeah.
And it's turned up to the max heat. I will say this. These are none of those 4 offensive linemen who have been drafted, including Will Campbell, were recruited by Brian Kelly. He inherited all of those offensive linemen when he got here.
Well, Miles Frazier, you can say.
Well, he brought in Miles Frazier, but the rest of them,
yeah.
He recruited these. These are prototypical Brian Kelly offensive linemen. They are talented, but are they going to play as a unit? And that's the question. That's the question.
More of Tiger Rag Radio when we come back from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Hey, we're back on Tiger Rag Radio as we wrap up hour number 1 from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. Coming up next will be Scott Rabalais from The Advocate and then Bruce Feldman from The Athletic. So pretty good 1-2 punch there in hour number 2. Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Andre Champagne from TigerRag.com and Tiger Rag Magazine. We were talking about LSU's offensive line. Let's talk a little bit more about the running game. We saw a lot of Harlan Berry today, didn't we?
Yeah, he got
He had second team reps.
The whole
not the entire day. There were periods in both the 11-on-11 periods as well as the 7-on-7.
But then in the post-game press conference, it sounded like Kelly wasn't sold on his physicality, even though he says that they're going to depend on him. He doesn't know. If
they only have 4 guys.
He almost deemed Caleb Jackson as the second team running back. But it sounds like it's more of a question of, yes, Barry, he does look a bit small, and I think he does need to learn a bit more of the technicalities of football at a college level with coming with pass pro blocking. He's very small right now. I think he would probably get run over by a linebacker.
So you think they probably are still anticipating, like Glenn sort of alluded to, having to use him for drop back swing passes and things like that?
He will be for sure utilized. It just will be a question of when can we use him to where he won't look predictable. One thing about LSU is they can't just throw Harlan Berry out there and all the film says, okay, he's only going to run it here. Or he's only going to, like you said, catch a check down, right? Or a design screen, because that becomes predictable and good teams will adjust to that at the end of the day. So he's got to learn those, small things, being patient in the gaps, things of that sort. And like you said, that the tackling also is a big difference in high school, especially where he played.
It's small 2A football.
Right.
Not the greatest district in the world. I mean, he didn't face great competition week in and week out. Is JT Lindsey made any kind of?
That's exactly what I was.
Lindsey I've kind of watched him with the third team. He doesn't look bad. His physical frame actually is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's 6 foot 191.
Exactly. So he's right around where you'd want him to be physically. It's just another transition. You honestly, and you almost saw it when he had to play against all those end of car guys. In the stage last year, but that offensive line was a different question.
His offensive line didn't help him out that night.
How good would this running back room be right now if Trey Holly was in it?
Well, you would like to have another option.
For sure.
And I got to get into a Juwan Johnson discussion with you. I just don't like the dipping the foot in the water and saying we're only going to play. I can get into this. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Have you ever heard of any coach say we're only going to play a guy half the season?
Well, he said in the spring that Colin Hurley and Juwan Johnson and Michael Van Buren were only going to play 4 games.
I understand that's a quarterback. I understand that's a quarterback,
but not from somebody that actually contributed.
All right, let's take a break. Second hour when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
All those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Guilbeau.
Players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio as we're set to begin hour number 2. Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Andre Champagne as we are here every Tuesday night for most of the folks that are listening to us, and you might be catching us in podcast form, or some of our affiliates play us on other days as well. But glad you can be a part of the show here tonight. Scott Rabalais from The Advocate set to join us here. So Scott's not on with us now, so let me just finish my Juwan Johnson thought here. I mean, think about it. I'm knocking on 50 years old. Todd, you're a little bit surpassing me. I have never heard a coach in my life say, hey, we got this guy. We think he's really good, but we're only going to play him 4 games.
He does whatever we wants. He does more than we ask him to do.
But he's only going to play 4 games. And I understand the theory behind it, that they had to use him last year when John Emery got hurt. The plan was to redshirt him last season. He lost his red shirt. I understand the plan is, and it's the family's belief that he could play quarterback at this level, and that is to be debated, but Brian Kelly in the spring was willing to give him that opportunity. And now I don't know if Brian Kelly looked around in his running back room and said, you know what, I could use an extra guy. But then again, in the spring, there was still the thought that Trey Holly would be back, that he would have had his trial, and so under LSU's eyes, they would have thought he would have been found not guilty.
Let me ask you a question before you go. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but how can Trey Holly play for Southern, but he can't play for LSU?
Because it's a rule for LSU
it's an internal rule.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yes. Yeah. Illinois. When Illinois men's basketball made that run to what?
Right.
They had a dude that was charged with rape, right? Am I right?
Yes,
Something like that?
And he was
so
sitting out.
Just so all the listeners know, Trey Holly is playing for Southern in camp right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So in case people didn't know that.
Yeah. He's there.
Transferred there 2 weeks ago.
And one thing we've seen from Juwan is he's being utilized in almost that Jaden Daniels role, to where they're using him in the same exact packages. They're allowing him to kind of run those triple option plays that he was so used to running.
And that's just it. They're still struggling to put together a running game. They're probably going to struggle with it at different levels all year long. Why not add the diversity of a true running quarterback, put him in the game? He can throw the ball.
Right.
He can't necessarily.
But he's only playing 4 games, Todd.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's 2025 and it's a different world. It's NIL, it's transfer portal, but I have never heard of a coach or any organization talk about, well, hey, we're only going to play this guy. Let's see. What if Jay Johnson said, we're only going to play Ethan Fry 16 games this year? How stupid does that sound?
I know.
On the surface.
And I'm not trying to rationalize it at all, but what he said in the spring, just to repeat, is he said Michael Van Buren, Colin Hurley, at the time assuming Hurley would be back, which he is from his car wreck situation, and Juwan Johnson will only play 4 games each. We're going to rotate them out.
I understand that at the quarterback position.
Right.
But now you're playing around with him at running back. So pick a lane. Yeah, pick a lane and go with it.
And he's lining up at wide receiver.
I'm saying, and I love Juwan Johnson is one of my favorite high school players that I've had a chance to watch. I saw him playing his very first game. I've seen him play in all his championship games. I saw the guy play 8 or 10 times in high school. Not a more exciting player in the high school football field than him. So I want him to have a great college career. And I just know with Russell Shepard, they couldn't figure it out. And you just kind of wasted the dude when he was here.
Yeah, but
I'm fearing that's what you're going to have with Juwan Johnson.
I understand your phobia, especially having lived through that traumatic situation with Russell Shepard.
But this
is not the same thing. It may reek of the same thing, but it's not. No, You've got a coach here who knows how to coach quarterbacks, whereas you had one then who did not know how to coach.
But is he a quarterback or is he a running back? And why are we only going to play him 4 games?
I think he is a running quarterback, and I don't think
I understand
he'll play 4 games.
And the 4 games, I understand you want him to play, or you're going to want him to play against Clemson. You're going to want him to play against maybe Ole Miss. It's just,
I think
it's crazy to be talking like this.
I think he is a utility switchblade.
Then play him 13 games, 14, 15 games.
I think that's what's going to happen with him.
Yeah, well, I think he's playing more than 4 games.
But the thing is, when they play Louisiana Tech, they're not going to need him.
No, they won't. But That's the thing.
And so it's just weird. It's just I've been following sports my whole life.
It is, but for LSU, like we just mentioned, the run game has been almost non-existent for so much time that they have to get creative somehow. And this is definitely a way where if you're not a coach that sees Juwan Johnson and he doesn't light your eyes up, then how good of a coach are you really? And I think it kind of goes the same for here. Is if you can't find a way for him to be successful with his amount of athleticism and his physicality, then something's maybe not clicking right on the coaching side.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, they could put him out there in the Clemson game, and he just goes
off. Yeah.
He goes. Yeah. He has a huge game, scores a couple whatever it might be. Breaks a couple long runs.
He was taking direct snaps at running back the other day, and I think that's that's what we're going to start seeing.
Yeah. All right. Let's bring in Scott Rabalais from the Advocate. He joins us on the Max Home Hotline. Scott, how you doing tonight?
I'm not going to disagree with y'all about Juwan Johnson. I'm afraid I'll get blasted too. So yeah, play him every game.
You were here for the Russell Shepard shenanigans.
Yeah, apparently Todd says I'm traumatized by that.
Yeah, is that what's going on here, or do I need to get a counselor or something, psychiatrist to come in and sit with Jeff, or what do you think about it, Scott?
Yeah, he's talented. He could play the Wildcat package. He could be a running back. He could throw a halfback pass. They've not shown it under Kelly. Have not shown a huge propensity for exotic plays. For gimmicky plays, by and large. So I think that's just they prefer their basic players that they count on. But yeah, it seems like you could find a place for that guy to run a few plays for you every game and see how it goes, So I'd love to see him. If LSU's like in a 1st and goal at the 4, I'd love to see him in the Wildcat package, see what he can do. Maybe not on 3rd down, but just get those yards. Make the defense have to account for him.
I agree, and I think that's what we're going to see. But so Scott, you've been covering LSU football since 1992. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you seen, and this is a serious question, I want you to be honest, not that you would be dishonest, but I want you to think about it and be serious. Have you seen a fall camp? I know fall camp is totally different than it was even 10 years ago, but have you seen a fall camp with as much energy and intensity as this one since they moved away from trying to kill you at two-a-days?
Yeah, two-a-days, nobody misses that. The players, probably not the coaches, and certainly not the media. Today, they ramped up the intensity a lot. Obviously, they went to full pads for the first time with the 6th practice. There's a sense of urgency, and there's a sense of confidence that you see, with this team. Talking to the players, certainly you hear from Brian Kelly. All the preseason practices kind of blend together sometimes. I told people, I've covered LSU when they were 2-9. I covered when we won the national championship. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of difference, but it's clearly a talented team. They clearly, I think for what it's worth at this point, the 1-0 mantra has helped. They want to start 1-0. They're tired of losing these season openers. Obviously, they're about to face the toughest season opener that they faced of all of them in the last 6 years. But I think it's been good. I think it's been good energy, good focus, and certainly I think it's a talented group. They have a great collection of talent, and it's deep. They have to make it a team, and that's what Ole Miss was not last year. They had a great returning quarterback and brought in a bunch of transfers, and they didn't make the college football playoffs. So LSU's trying to get past that and be a team, and more than just a collection of players, and that's what has to be proven out in preseason camp, which adds to the sense of urgency, to the drama of it, as you will, because everyone knows where they want to be and what their goal is and where they should be at the end of the season.
Scott, has LSU had a more difficult season opener since maybe 2011? Can you think of one that's been more difficult than this one? than maybe that one, which was against Oregon?
No. That was number 3 versus number 4. But on a neutral field, obviously in Dallas. No, certainly not. This is difficult. This is the first time I think LSU's been involved. Now that both teams are preseason top 10 in the coaches poll, or 6 and 9. It's the first time LSU's playing a top 10 game on the road to start the season ever. So this is tough. The Florida State game in Orlando 2 years ago, that was a really tough one too. That was the one game where I thought, of all these openers to this point that they've lost, that I thought LSU was kind of outclassed a little bit. Although they were in the game, the game just kind of got away from them late. But this is very difficult. I mean, going to Clemson, if the game was here in Baton Rouge, and all these home series seem to start with LSU going on the road, doesn't it? I mean, they don't always, but it seems like they always do. And if this game was in Baton Rouge, well, LSU would be the slight favorite, and I would pick them to win. But this is a really tough one, and it's as meaningful a season opener as I've ever seen them have.
How important is this season in full perspective for Brian Kelly, in your opinion?
Well, I don't think he's going to get fired as this season, no matter
if they lose 6 games, no matter what.
No matter what. I mean, they owe him too much money, and they've had too much success at this point. I mean, it hasn't been overwhelming success, but I mean, they went to the SEC championship game his first year. They had a Heisman Trophy winner, won 29 games, won all 3 of their bowl games, not playoff games, but bowl games.
Jerry DiNardo had a better record after 3 years than Brian Kelly has.
Yeah, and he wasn't fired after their first losing season either. It took two losing seasons for him to get run out. So, yeah, it's very important. Like there's a lot wrapped up in it. Not just, hey, this is a team you have and they look good and you want to make the playoff. It's going to be it's a validation of everything that they're trying to do at LSU, including building with front office personnel and obviously going heavy into the transfer portal.
All right, we'll take a break. We're going to have more of with Scott Rabalais from the Advocates. We'll talk not only about this team, but also talk about Les Miles' candidacy for the College Football Hall of Fame. So stay tuned. This is Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Tracks.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. Also, Andre Champagne is with us as well, new Tiger Rag reporter, and myself, Jeff Palermo. We're inside the Super Chevy Dealer Studio, and one more segment with Scott Rabalais from The Advocate on the Max Home Hotline. And Scott, recently you wrote about Les Miles' candidacy for the College Football Hall of Fame. As many people know, the rules were changed to give Les Miles, Mike Leach, an opportunity to go into the or get elected to the College Football Hall of Fame, because prior to the rule change, their win-loss percentage was below the 60% that you needed to get in. It's been lowered to .595, I believe, is .595, and Les is at .597 after you vacate the 37 wins during his LSU career because of recruiting violations. So I'm in your corner, Scott. I think the guy did enough to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. He won at a very high level. He won a national championship. He won a couple of SEC titles. Was it always pretty? No. Did it end well? No. Did it? Some of the stories we've heard afterwards, are they great? No. But in the end, if you judge the guy by wins and losses and how they recruited, and they were one of the best teams year in and year out over a long period of time. I think he checks all of those boxes. You there, Scott?
Oh. Yes, I certainly think this is my feeling. I want to be careful about what I say. I think he deserves to be on the ballot and deserves to be considered.
Okay.
And because do I think he had a Hall of Fame career? I do, but I understand there's some baggage there now with Les, with the things that came out in the Hush Blackwell report and things like that didn't that certainly put him in a bad light. And of course, you had the whole the vacated game wins because of the Vidal Alexander situation. There's a lot there, but yeah, I mean his winning percentage without the vacated wins, which is just ridiculous. Really, this guy was an offensive lineman. He wasn't a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He'd be at 661, which is well above the threshold. Look, this was designed. This move was by the National Football Foundation was designed to get Mike Leach in. It'll lower the winning percentage to 595, which they say is still rounding up to 60%.
Right.
Is their argument. But I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess the math works. And so Les is now eligible, and Jackie Sherrill, the former Miss Dayton Texas A&M coach, and some others, I'm sure. But Mike Leach is going to get in, I'm sure, because of he's regarded as an innovator, and people like Mike Leach, So, but he didn't ever win a conference championship, even, much less a national title. And I think Les deserves to be considered. Now he has to be nominated by one of the schools where he was a head coach,
which is
Oklahoma State, LSU, or Kansas,
right?
And that's where you run into a sticky wicket. Obviously, one of several, actually, probably the biggest.
And this rule change is only in effect for a couple of years, right, Scott?
Not until 27. Not until 2026.
Which is when the next vote is.
Oh, okay. So it won't be until the next. All right. So it start. So do you think someone from LSU will nominate him? That's the $1 million question, I guess, huh?
Yeah. So I don't think anyone from Kansas is going to nominate him, and I doubt anyone from Oklahoma State will because he left there to come to LSU, right? So, and he can't be nominated by Michigan where he played because he wasn't a first-team All-American there, so he can't go in as a player. I think I don't think the impression I get from LSU is that the door is not closed. Remember, now Les, on top of everything else, sued LSU. Along with I think the National Football Foundation to try to get eligible, and a judge threw that case out earlier this year. So you could argue there's some hard feelings there, and it wouldn't surprise me, nor could I blame LSU if they said no, we never want to do that for Les Miles. But,
Scott,
I think the door is open.
So let me ask you, who at LSU gets a vote for the National Football Foundation for this Hall of Fame? Is it just Scott Woodward? Is it Brian Kelly? Who at LSU gets to vote?
Well, I don't know if any of those people are in the National Football Foundation. There's hundreds of people around the country though who are. But the school has to say. I would assume it's the buck stops with Scott Woodward, and perhaps even the new school president, whoever that will be. If they want to do that. But I would think Scott Woodward would have to be the person to push it forward. Yeah.
Do you think that it would be a good PR move for anybody, and I'm being sincere, for anybody in the state of Louisiana associated with LSU to vote for an accused sexual predator to be in the Hall of Fame?
It's the biggest question, right? Obviously, because on the field he definitely qualifies, and it is, I think you could say, deserving. But that's the biggest question. Yeah, would it potentially bring bad publicity to LSU and damage the school's reputation? Yeah, it very well could. We saw how people reacted about Will Wade, for God's sake, when LSU would fire him. So, it's a difficult situation. But there are people who have done some bad things who are still in halls of fame.
OJ's still in the Hall of Fame, and you and I talked about that the other day. But I thought about it, and he did that after the fact.
Well, they could still kick him out.
Well,
couldn't? I mean, could.
Yeah.
They could kick him out, yeah, but they're not going to.
Yeah. Scott, thanks a lot. We're not going to kick you off the show, but we got Bruce Feldman coming on next, so we got to kind of move you along, if you don't mind.
I will step aside for Bruce Feldman, no problem.
All right, more of Tiger Rag Radio. Thanks, Scott. More of Tiger Rag Radio after this.
July is jumping at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Discover new ways of researching your family history. Learn how to market your small business. Enjoy programs and performances for all ages. We've got it all. For more details, go to ebrpl.com. That's ebrpl.com.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Welcome back to Tiger Rag Radio inside the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. We got a special guest for you here tonight, and that is Bruce Feldman, longtime college football reporter, now working for The Athletic, and also, I would imagine, still with Fox Sports. Am I right on that, Bruce?
You are correct.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
For another season, I'll be in studio all season.
Oh, that's great. That is great. You came out with your college football freaks list for 2025 before we get into some other stuff regarding LSU and the Southeastern Conference. And Chris Hilton, he apparently, according to the GPS, is able to run nearly 24 miles per hour. That's some crazy speed there, Bruce.
It is. I mean, you just don't see guys who are regular football players who can run that fast. I mean, anything over like 22.5 is flying. He's almost 24 miles per hour. I mean, it was a record for LSU. And talking to some guys who've worked with him, they said he's run as fast as in the 4.2s and the 40. So, was an elite track guy, an elite jumper, and hopefully for LSU he can have stay healthy for a full season, because he definitely has big play potential.
Bruce, you also talk about Berrien Brown in your freaks list this year, just referring to his speed. With LSU having Chris Hilton and Berrien Brown obviously lining up together at times, is there a faster wideout group in the country, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you're talking about two elite speed guys. Jelani Watkins, a younger receiver who's a real track guy who plays football too. I mean, they have so much speed, especially in those two guys, and I think it's a great opportunity for Garrett Nussmeier, who's a legitimate Heisman candidate, to have that kind of stretch the field capabilities.
Yeah, I want to move on and talk a little bit about Dominic McKinley, who you also had listed as, I think, number 6 in your top 100 freaks list. But before we do that, I mean, just to give some instance to this or some comparison, that's faster. Chris Hilton's time is faster than Tyreek Hill and Xavier Worthy in the NFL, the two fastest guys in the NFL, correct?
The 23.7 or the...
Yeah, the 23.7.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on, whether it's in-game or not, but you just don't see regular football players who are close to 24.
Right.
Like, for instance, the guy who's number 3 on the list, Nick Harbor, who was at South Carolina, he's a much bigger receiver, but he ran 10.11 in 2020 last year on the NCAA track meet. He's 23.6. So just a little slower than what Chris Hilton did. Again, and Chris Hilton is like an elite jumper too, and won state titles in Louisiana. Just a really, really gifted athlete.
Well, before we talk about Dominic again, I'm gonna keep putting that off just a little bit. How do you compile this list every year? It seems like there are freaks all over the place. I mean, if I remember correctly, when you started about 20 years ago, you started with like 20 of them or 10 of them, and now you're up to 100.
I know. It's something where started really with coaches who've been really helpful and supportive of this project, and really it leans on strength coaches more than anything. I'm dependent on the intel and the information that I get from those guys, and so it's something that I work on for the entire summer. NFL scouts have been helpful to give me some leads on possible guys in addition, because it's not just the major school guys. Like when I first started doing it, that's really all it was. And now it's FCS guys and Division II guys sometimes, and even last year I had a Division III guy. So it's really grown over the last decade or so.
That's amazing. Dominic McKinley, of course, is a sophomore defensive tackle. I think he had 3 sacks last year. He was really coming into his own towards the end of the year, and they're looking for big things out of him. And Brian Kelly reported last week to us in the media that they ran out of weights for him this summer in the weight room.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy with him, obviously he was a huge recruit, was a 5-star guy, but talking about somebody who's still only a sophomore, second-year sophomore, it's not like he's been there for 3 years, over 300 pounds, 6'6". He vertical jumps 35 inches, that's better than a lot of receivers at the combine jumped. He broad jumped 10 feet, but then the power clean, 418 pounds is an insane amount, especially for somebody that young. It's not like I said, it's not like he's been there for 4 years in the program. I can see why LSU's had more than their share of elite defensive linemen over the years, and this guy has a chance to be maybe the next one.
Talking with Bruce Feldman from The Athletic, and of course Fox as well, which covers the Big Ten and Big 12 as well. But Bruce, what do you think of this LSU defense? Is this the year it finally turns the corner?
I think it really has a chance. I like Blake Baker. He's been a good defensive coordinator wherever he's been. Last year was the first year. I think they were better, and couldn't get much worse than they had been. But you have a couple guys on the back line and Whit Weeks who makes a ton of plays. Harold Perkins who was a terror his freshman year, and it just feels like getting him lined up in the right way. He can be a really good chess piece. They were bad in the secondary for a little while. I think getting Corey Raymond back helps. And now we got to see. I think they've added some really good players in the portal who've played a lot. Patrick Payton's been very productive at Florida State. Jack Pryburn, who's a guy, we mentioned in the Freaks list as well today because he's super strong. He was at Florida. I think he's going to help a lot. I think they will take the next step on defense because I think they got better last year. I think they're going to get better again this year. I think getting Blake back, obviously he'd been there before as a linebacker coach at LSU. I think that was a really good move. And now it's just, they have a tough opener out of the gate against a really experienced quarterback with good receivers. Kate Klubnik has some weapons. It's a tough place to play. To me, that is a phenomenal matchup week 1.
Bruce, does it surprise you that Brian Kelly is placing so much emphasis on this Clemson game? Granted, he hadn't won a season opener since he got to LSU, and LSU's lost 5 straight, but he's really just amping up the focus on this game, and it seems like they're pushing all their poker chips to the center of the table for Clemson.
It definitely does. Obviously the downside of that is if it doesn't work out, then does all the air come out of the balloon? We've seen plenty of teams, bounce back from early season losses to go make the playoff, to even win national titles. So, again, they are built, I think, now to not just be a playoff team, but make a run at the national title. There's no shame. Clemson last year got blown out by Georgia in the first game of the season. They ended up making the playoff.
Right.
And I feel like their defense was at best average, but they were able to bounce back and keep growing. And I think win or lose, I think both Clemson and LSU are legit title, not just playoff teams, but title contenders. And I think, even if somebody loses by 2 touchdowns, I don't think it means the season's over. It is a long season. The days of what it was years ago when it felt like if you lose a game, you're out, I don't think that's the case anymore.
You mentioned Clemson's defense, and they're, talent-wise, they're loaded, but as you said, they had some problems last year, particularly against Georgia and other SEC teams. Do you think they've corrected those holes in that defense this year moving forward? And where do you think they stem from?
Yeah, I think, new defensive coordinator Tom Allen, he was in the SEC when he was at Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze, was the head coach at Indiana, did a really good job as Penn State's defensive coordinator last year, and he has some really good pieces to work with. They were out of sync last year. I've heard that from the people I talked to inside that program, they like the direction of things. They have one of my top 5 Freaks guys on there in the middle of the D-line, Peter Woods. He's a 310-pound defensive lineman who's running, in the mid-4.8. He has a chance to be a top 5 draft pick next year. And I think there's a lot of really, really big-time guys they have there that, it's just about can they be on the same page. This is going to be a good test for them because, as we said, Nussmeier's really talented quarterback. and they have a lot of speed, not just at receiver, but the running back room. They're all like guys who are legit track guys, but as you well know, it's an offensive line that has to replace 4 starters, including like a top 5 pick in Will Campbell. And that's a tough place to play. I think, just talking about this matchup, you can't wait for it to get here.
What's your biggest question mark when it comes to LSU right now?
Good question. I think right now, because I feel like the defense will get a lot better. I feel like right now at this point, it's the parts on the offensive line coming together. I mean, to lose 4 guys, and like I said, you're going to see a Clemson defense that has 2 first-round picks, I think, that are on that D-line. It's a loud, hostile place to play. I think that's the first big challenge for them. I think Nussmeier's going to be terrific. I think they have plenty of weapons at receiver. I think they'll be able, I think they'll be better on defense. It's how well does the O-line hold up, especially early. It's a tough opener. And I think, I'm sure LSU fans want it no other way, but you have that game. And then, it's like Louisiana Tech. And then, a week later, you have a good Florida team that has a really good D-line. That's like you have 2 teams that have a bunch of talent in the defensive fronts in the first 3 weeks. And again, I mean, obviously Florida was a tough out for teams in the second half of the year. I mean, they got a lot better. So I think that's the question mark for me is really the O-line, how it gels, how quickly it can gel.
Bruce, thanks a lot. We really appreciate your time. Always good stuff over at The Athletic and great stuff over at Fox as well. Enjoy the college football season.
You too. Thanks, guys. My pleasure.
All right. The great Bruce Feldman joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio. We'll have more when we come back from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
All right, back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and Andre Champagne, who is a new reporter for Tiger Rag and Louisiana Radio Network. Jackson Blackman with you as well. Let's hear a little bit more from Coach Brian Kelly. He talks about the fantastic freshman cornerback that is turning everybody's talking about him, and nobody can – his name is on the tip of everybody's tongue.
I'm not going to say anything.
All right, this is DJ Pickens, Jackson.
Guys are going to do exactly what you ask them to do. They're going to trust the teaching. If they don't, they won't play. And there's no better motivator than playing time. And so I would add Ashton Stamps, PJ to that mix. Pickens. I mean, there's a lot of players out there.
Pickens.
Yeah, Pickens' name, just so everybody knows, is Pickett. But
DJ Pickett.
It's DJ Pickett, and he's probably he's a 5-star recruit.
Right.
He was arguably LSU's biggest acquisition in the recruiting cycle last year. He is destined to be the next great cover cornerback at LSU. I think Derek Stingley.
Oh, look at that! You can.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We all do it.
Yeah, but think Derek Stingley. Think Patrick Payton. Not Patrick
Payton. Oh, now you're all.
Yeah, I'm all screwed up.
Patrick Peterson.
Now we do sound like.
So
Coach.
But he's 6'5". 195 pounds. And
so he was 6'3" when they recruited him, right?
He's still growing. He's a growing boy. So
I mean, could he really play at that size at cornerback?
I think so.
He's doing. You know what's interesting is at camp right now, I've noticed that every time the receivers go against the defensive backs in individual drills, he's always guarding Chris Hilton.
Chris Hilton is a speedy guy too, and so it's been competitive. That's one thing I've noticed is it's been competitive. And don't get me wrong, DJ Pickett has plenty room to grow, right? But one thing you have to look at is DJ Pickett is not going to be thrown up against a Chris Hilton archetype player when it comes to a game, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to be thrown up probably against your most physical wide receiver, right? And so that's what makes me kind of wonder how much playing time will he get this season, and how much, I guess, physical type wide receivers are you going to see this year? And I guess I should have looked at the schedule and kind of gone through those. But that's really what my biggest question is, because PJ Woodland is a guy that will play a lot.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about Jakeem from Florida.
Jackson.
Mm-hmm. And he's been a guy that has the physical build of the corner, an ideal build, but he doesn't have necessarily the experience as Delane and those other guys.
I'm telling you, don't count Pickens out, okay?
Oh, for sure.
I shouldn't really laugh. I was on WWL last night, and I meant to say CJ Daniel, right? I was talking about Nussmeier.
Mr. Curl Route?
Yeah, Mr. Curl Route, but Mr. Safety Valve for Garrett Nussmeier. And I said, I was just talking about who is going to be his safety valve this year. And I kept saying, instead of CJ Daniel, I don't know why I did it, I kept saying Craig Davis. And then I'm like, as I'm saying it, and I'm like, that don't make sense.
Yeah,
like Craig Davis was like 20 years ago. Buster Davis, of course.
Right.
But so it all happens. It happens. We'll take a break. We'll wrap it up. Got to just get this Lady Tigers nugget out there. And then got one other soundbite to play regarding Brian Kelly, talking about Bauer Sharp, who's looked good in preseason camp as well. So we'll wrap up Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio when we come back.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Before we wrap up the show on football, the LSU women's basketball schedule came out today. Once again, the non-conference schedule filled with just really big potholes. Morgan State, Texas Arlington, Alabama State, Alcorn State. I don't. This is just, it's rough, very rough, Todd.
We're gonna have the same conversations as we approach the last 4 or 5 weeks of the SEC season as we've had all year with bracketologist Charlie Cream.
Yeah, they don't.
I just don't know what to the LSU is an enigma.
They will be an enigma this year. They do. They will play Duke. They will go to.
That's
a
tough game.
And I mean, is Duke still good in women's basketball?
Yes,
okay,
very.
all right, there we go. Interesting. They'll play South Carolina on Valentine's Day, and if you check the calendar this year, Valentine's Day is on a Saturday. So they will actually play a game on Saturday in women's basketball. It's apparently going to be televised by CBS, and it probably could be a prime time meaning a night game.
So the last time, if I remember reading this correctly, that CBS televised a women's basketball game on a Saturday was in 2005, and it involved LSU, then ranked number 1. And I cannot remember.
They played Georgia.
Georgia, okay. So it would be the first time in 20 years. Or actually, by that time, it would be 21 years.
So I guess LSU women's basketball fans will have to they'll have to wait till Sunday for the Valentine's plans.
I guess so.
Or go get lunch.
I guess so. Texas will be at the PMAC on January 11th. What else? What's another?
Well, they play Texas twice.
Yeah.
That's the only
Texas
team they play twice this year.
So they got
That'd
Texas, and then I bet you
the same with the other.
Tennessee. They got up February 26th. When's the other Texas game? Oh, there it is. February 5th. They have to go to Austin. So, anyways, there you go. Women's basketball. Just had to get that in there. Bauer Sharp, LSU with the 2 tight end set and even a 3 tight end set at times. But Bauer Sharp, of course, the leading receiver at Oklahoma last season, brought here to be a Mason Taylor type, if not better. And here's what Coach Brian Kelly had to say about him today.
Bauer's been really good. Let's be honest, right? He's been really good. He's been a great leader. He's accountable. We're really pleased with him. But he's not perfect. And he's working on that every day, too, which is great, right? He came here knowing that he was not done developing. And that's what we appreciate about him the most.
Why is he not perfect? I mean, I'm not saying he is perfect. I'm curious what he's not perfect with.
Is he a good blocker?
I think he is a good blocker.
I would say it probably just certain personnel he wants to see better blocking, if I had to guess. And that probably comes with LSU uses so much motion with their tight ends. There's going to be something that they pinpoint that could be improved. And I think Bauer Sharp has shown so much athleticism from an offensive weapon standpoint. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier is the luckiest quarterback. I guess.
Well, let's wait till we see the offensive line first in action.
That is true. From a skill position,
no doubt about
wise, it must be so fun just to practice. Go to practice every day.
7-on-7 drills are fun.
I just hope that Joe Sloan graduates to a really good offensive coordinating play caller this year. And I hope he has some support on that new staff.
Well, then they based on the hires they've made, it's all there to assist in his play calling duties.
My question is, how much will he allow them to collaborate with him?
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've heard, some things where Sloan kind of sticks to his scheme, right? And I get that to an extent, but you cannot, be complacent.
Yeah. Hey, guys, really good show. Great debut for our new Tiger Rag reporter, Andre Champagne. Todd, thanks a lot again. We'll have Glenn Guilbeau back, so we'll see if we'll get a word in next week. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. As Glenn will have to get himself caught up on what's been going on at preseason camp. For all the latest when it comes to LSU football news, check out TigerRag.com. For Jackson, Andre, Todd, I'm Jeff Palermo. Have a great night.
Tiger Rag is everywhere. Online at TigerRag.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TigerRag Magazine. Or follow us on Twitter at Tiger_Rag.